There's a lot of buzz surrounding this year's French Open, and the pros are starting to weigh in. Between claims that Rafa will retire to young gun putting a stop to Novak Djokovic, these are the pros' predictions for who will win the French Open. Let us start with Alexander Zverev's big-time claim. The German star was asked about Rafael Nadal and the upcoming French Open, and he made a bold prediction. So get this, not only is Zverev backing the 22-time Grand Slam champion to have a great tournament and potentially win it, he's also of the view that the Spaniard will retire as Philippe Chatrier. It sounds like a fairy tale ending to a glorious career, but it's clear that fans don't want that to happen. They want Rafa to stick around longer and play in many more tournaments. But Zverev has a hunch that the upcoming major will be the final tournament of Nadal's career. Fortunately for Rafa fans, he clapped back at the claims and said that while he has a good relationship with Zverev, he doesn't have a good enough one to confess something like that to him. Hilarious. Rafa added that his injury struggles aren't new, and that he's struggled throughout his career, but retirement is not in his plans. That said, his recent absence from the entire clay swing leading up to the French Open is a cause for concern. And there might just be some truth to Sasha's claims, because even Roger Federer thinks it'll be brutal for tennis to not have Rafa playing at Roland Garros. It's rough enough already. Given that we won't have Serena Williams and Swiss Maestro in the main draw since their retirement last year, and so FedEx doesn't want tennis to lose another major superstar. Even if Rafa's retirement isn't imminent, although he's more optimistic, and expects both Rafa and Djokovic to turn up for the tournament. Not only that, but he expects them both to put in strong showings. Fingers crossed they do make the main draw and show up when the tournament begins later in May. But in terms of who ends up winning the Grand Slam, Daniela Hantuchova, the former world number 5, has given us her prediction, and she thinks that Carlos Alcaraz is the clear favorite. It's a pretty decent call based on recent results. Alcaraz has been to the final of 5 of the 6 tournaments he's played in this year, and he's enjoying a fabulous clay swing, winning both the Opens in Barcelona and Madrid. Hantuchova thinks that regardless of the results in the upcoming Rome Open, Alcaraz will enter Paris as the favorite to go all the way. She's basing it off the number of matches that the young Spaniard's gotten under his belt on clay, and believes that the lack of match fitness for Djokovic and Nadal is beneficial for Carlitos. Greg Rusedski, the former US Open finalist, is in the same boat as Hantuchova. Both analysts took the same route while making the prediction. Rusedski thinks that when Rafa and Djokovic are fully fit and have enough matches under their belt, they'll always be title contenders in Paris. But he's given Alcaraz the best chance of winning Roland Garros this year, simply because those two haven't been on court long enough. Once again, he made those comments right after Carlitos' defense of his Madrid Open title. And if anyone has closely watched the clay swing, they'll agree with what Rusedski had to say. Chris Evert has also been tuning into the Carlos Alcaraz show, and even though she only sees one favorite in France, and that's the 2-time Madrid Open winner, she mentioned how Alcaraz is primed for this title at the French Open, and that the only thing standing between him and the trophy is his fitness. Everett agrees that she might be influenced by the popular support for the youngster as of late, but she thinks that no one has played the game like Alcaraz in recent times, admiring his passion and hunger. This might just be the biggest stamp of approval for young Carlos, because if Chris can't see a weakness in his skill set, then he might actually be unbeatable. He's only 20, and someone who agrees with Everett's prediction is actually Alcaraz himself. Yep, the Madrid Open winner has also taken a look into the crystal ball, and while he disagrees with Hantuchova in terms of who the favorite is, the reigning US Open champion has firm belief in his abilities to defeat the favorite, Nadal, at Roland Garros. That's a massive statement to make, but the fact that Alcaraz has that much confidence confidence is actually a good thing. He's not being arrogant about it, he simply thinks that he has a chance of defeating the 14-time French Open champion. Alcaraz acknowledges the challenge at hand. After all, Rafa's only lost on the Paris clay 3 times in his entire career. The youngster also added how Nadal has 1,000 lives at the French Open. Still, he thinks he could beat him. That said, his inspiration is also his fellow countrymen, and Alcaraz hopes to emulate the level Nadal has played at throughout the course of his career. Carlitos thinks that Rafa's knack for finding solutions and never making excuses is what sets him apart, and he'd like to take that trait from El Matador because it makes him unbeatable, especially if he gets a couple of wins under his belt, which is Patrick Mouratoglou's prediction for the French Open. The renowned tennis coach has Nadal as his #1 pick ahead of the 2023 French Open, and despite his long absence from the tour, Mouratoglou has Nadal going all the way, especially if he makes the second week of the tournament. Yeah, Serena's former coach knows a thing or two about tennis. He's pointed to Rafa's trophy collection as enough evidence to back him for the title this year, too. Mouratoglou justified his opinion by saying that Nadal becomes unplayable the minute he enters the second week at Roland Garros, and it is his tournament. This is massive news for Rafa fans in particular, who know that the King of Clay is familiar with every inch of the Philippe Chatrier court, and it doesn't matter if he has zero match fitness. He's got the ability to win regardless of how he enters the tournament. Those 14 trophies are proof enough if we're being honest. They are definitely enough for Reilly Opelka. The big server from the States has seen the same story way too many times. He knows that it doesn't matter if Nadal is fit or not. If he's in the draw, he's the favorite. And I have to say, there's a lot of truth to it. Think about it. He's played in 17 French Open tournaments over the course of his career. He's only lost 3 of those. These numbers are staggering. It's not a joke to win a single Grand Slam. Opelka knows all about it, considering he's never even got close to winning one. And here we're talking about someone who has won 14 of them only in Paris. Bonkers. Opelka has so much faith in Rafa winning the French. He says that even if his life is on the line, he'd back Nadal to go all the way. The American is backing Alcaraz to have a great tournament too, but added how he has too much respect for Nadal to put Alcaraz ahead of him in the pecking order. Fair enough. Most former and current players have the same view. Even Jo-Wilfried Tsonga's favorite for the crowd in Paris is Rafael Nadal. He knows all about losing to Rafa on clay. He knows all about bringing your A game and getting destroyed by the Spanish superstar. That's why he thinks that if Rafa plays, he'll be the favorite. But like Opelka, Tsonga thinks that if Rafa isn't there, then Alcaraz is the favorite. That's a massive statement to make, especially considering there's another 22 Grand Slam champions set to take part. And he's won the only Grand Slam of the year so far. Yep, I'm talking about Novak Djokovic, and the disrespect he seems to be getting. But Boris Becker, Novak's former coach, has a different opinion. He's seen enough of the Serbian champion, and while his personal favorite is Rafa for the 2023 French Open crown, the German thinks that in case of his absence, the title will be Novak's to lose. Maybe he's biased, but I don't think so. You see, even Evert said Alcaraz is the favorite, but explained how there's a lot of disrespect going around when it comes to Rafa and Novak. And truth of the matter is, Alcaraz hasn't passed the Novak test yet. He hasn't even played Djokovic since their only meeting in Madrid way back in 2022, and Becker agrees with Evert. He's convinced that the Serb will win, especially if Rafa doesn't play. Mirroring that very claim is John Millman, someone who has lost to Djokovic every time he's played him, that too in straight sets. Millman has a very good reason for saying that. He pointed out how the Serb gets in form right around the Rome Open time, and then takes that form into the French Open, where we see him at the peak of his powers. He's expecting the world number one to do business again this year, and that's it. There are definitely a lot of thoughts ahead of the Open, but I think one thing we can all agree on is that it's going to be an excellent tournament this year. So from Alcaraz failing the Novak test to Rafa's retirement, those were the predictions from pros about the 2023 French Open.